What's up guys, it's ALLDAYANTHONY and welcome back to the Civic vlog that you hopefully know and hopefully love. And in today's video, we are getting started with the ultimate Honda Civic detail. Let's go. Alright guys, and welcome back. I am so excited to have you all here for the start of the ultimate Honda Civic detail. Now today's video is going to be part 1 of a 3-episode series detailing the exterior of my Honda Civic. Now today's video is going to be all around the products, tools, and techniques that I'm going to be using to do this detail. There's going to be a lot of talking in this video going over all the products and explaining the stuff in a lot of detail. Now I'm not going to be doing any detailing in this video, but I'm going to try to overlay footage from the future videos so you can see why I'm using these particular products. Now if that's going to bore you to death, feel free to leave and wait for the other videos, but if you want to learn something, then please stick around. Now at first glance, some of you guys might think, Anthony, this looks like a clean car. This already looks like a detailed car, and believe me, it is far from that. Not only is my Civic extremely dirty, but it is in dire need of a polish and a new ceramic coating. So I want to bring you guys along for this process and show you how much gloss and how much depth and how good we can make this paint look through the power of detailing. So we're going to start this off by showing you what the paint's current condition is, and then we're going to jump to the products and talk about what I'm going to be using. Alright guys, so before we begin, I want to be completely open and honest with you and get something off my chest. I know a lot more about detailing than I lead on in my videos. In all of my previous content, I really try to simplify things and make things really easy to follow, but this video series is not going to be that. A lot of the stuff I'm going to be using is expensive. A lot of the stuff I'm using isn't normal everyday stuff, but I figured since I have it, why not use it? We're going to start with one of the items that nobody would have in their garage, which is a swirl finding light. So I'm going to be bringing you guys around all of the paintwork and showing you what we're working with and showing you the things that I'm looking for that I want to remove to add as much gloss and clarity to this paint as I possibly can. Alright, so this light right here is meant to show you all the things that you don't want to see in your paint. Why would you have this? You have this so you can remove those things within your paint when it comes to polishing. Now this light right here replicates the sun, and what does it reveal? It reveals swirls. So if you guys look closely around that light, all those little spider webs, all those things kind of around that light are swirl marks. And those are things that just happen from improper washing. They happen from going down and going through an automated car wash that has brushes and things like that. Now why does my car have them? Probably has them because maybe I used a bad towel, or maybe when I was washing the car I didn't maybe completely clean it before drying it. They just happen. They're kind of inevitable, but the idea is that when you polish a car you want to be able to remove those things. Now this light right here will pretty much show you, again, everything that you don't want to see. Deeper scratches, swirl marks, things like that. And so I'm going to show you right here. On my car, I have a couple deeper gouges that I do not think I'm going to be able to remove. Let's see if there's one right there next to that light that you guys can kind of follow. And that is stuff that's just really deep in the paint, and I don't think I'm going to be able to remove that. I might be able to wet sand it if I really want to get picky about it, but ultimately, you can see my paint is swirled, and I want to fix that because all those swirls are things that are going to get in the way of gloss. They're going to get in the way of clarity, and if I remove those, my paint is going to be looking literally like new. So now that you guys know what we're going to be removing, I do want to give you just a general rundown of the paint work that I've had done on the car. A lot of people think that this car has had an entire respray, and that is just not true. This is a 1999 Honda Civic, and most of the paint on here is still from 1999, and it's seen some shit in its day. There's a lot of scratches and swirls and things like that that may not come out during this process, and that's just because it's so old, and trying to chase all those imperfections may lead to actually breaking through the clear coat and causing more damage and a need for more paint work than what's really necessary. So I don't want to go that far. I just want to go as far as I feel comfortable with, but I do want to give you guys just a rundown of what kind of paint I have actually had to do since I've owned this car. First thing I did was try to repaint that door myself, and I did a horrible job. I had a hard line in the paint for years and it looked like absolute crap, and I finally got that professionally resprayed this year. This door was blended into this fender here, so both of these have new paint on them that I actually do need to wet sand. The texture is just a little bit different from the rest of the car, so I'm going to be going through during this detail process, wet sanding this door and wet sanding this fender to get them to match with the rest of the texture of the clear coat on the car. Now besides that, that rear bumper is brand new. Well, by brand new, I mean I found it in a junkyard and then I had it resprayed as well, but the paint on that is new as well. So the texture on that's pretty good. I do not have to wet sand that by any means. I think it's pretty money how it turned out, so I'm not gonna really have to touch that. Now besides that, you guys know, probably from watching my previous video, that I painted this front lip right here, this minty fresh OEM Civic Si front lip. And I did a pretty damn good job if I say so myself. So good in fact that I don't think I'm gonna have to wet sand it. I think I'm just gonna polish it. I think the texture was totally fine on it. So really, I'm just going to be polishing that out. But other than that though, has the car had any other paint work? Well, yes. I just wanna be completely honest with you guys. This hood is not the original hood. I don't know what happened, but at some point during probably the previous owner's ownership of this car, they did have this hood replaced and have it resprayed. And so I'm not sure why. I have no idea. It's not on the Carfax or anything like that. I just know that this hood is not original to this car. But other than that, that's the only paintwork that's been done. No fenders have been resprayed, roof's still original, trunk's still original, the spoiler's aftermarket, but you guys already know that by now. And then the side skirts are something that I painted myself. And so side skirts are still in pretty decent condition for a DIY job in the garage. I'm still pretty happy with them. They just do need a polish. So that's the paintwork I've had on the car, but other than that, everything else is still original. So the roof, for example here, still original and still originally scratched, which is too bad. Quarter panels, still original. Trunk here, still original and still originally scratched. But I think that we're gonna be able to really polish that stuff out pretty good to get this to where it has more clarity and more gloss and still look pretty damn good. Okay, so before we get into talking about the products, I just want to do a quick recap of what we are actually doing in this video. I feel like I might be losing some of you guys, or you might be thinking, Anthony, you're talking in circles and we don't understand what the heck is actually going to happen. I am going to be machine polishing this vehicle. After washing it and doing a decontamination and clay and all that kind of stuff, I'm going to be taking several machines at that and then refinishing the paint, basically polishing all of the clear coat on the Civic to make it as shiny as freaking possible, removing imperfections, things like that, but making this clear coat, this 20-year-old clear coat, trying to make it look as good as it can, right? And then from there, we're going to protect it with a very long-term ceramic coating, which is basically like a coat for your clear coat that will last years and years and years, making it extremely easy to clean. That's about as simple as I can explain these things, but it's a fun process. It's really exciting. It's really satisfying. It's kind of a lot of work getting up to that and trying to explain why I'm doing that when the car is already shiny. Basically, I want this to be even shinier, and I want as much protection as I can to make sure that this clear coat looks as good as it can for as long as it can, right? So hopefully you're still with me. Now, let's talk about products. All right, guys, so I pretty much have everything laid out that I'm going to be using for this detail. I don't think I'm missing anything, but if I am, I'll make sure to include it in the video down the road. Now, the point of me making this entire video around the products and the tools and the techniques and all of that is so that I don't have to talk during the other videos. And I mean, I'm going to talk, but I'm going to be working primarily. I'm going to stop here and there just to kind of remind you guys what I'm doing. But this video is meant to just tell you exactly the products I'm using, why I'm using them, and just make it really simple and easy to follow. So that way, all these videos aren't 3-hour-long videos, because that would be pretty long to watch. I'm sure a few of you guys might enjoy that, but this is why I'm doing this. So anyway, we're going to start from right to left here with a lot of the basic easy stuff, and work our way to the more of the complicated stuff, the machines, the extra tools, the pads, and stuff like that. And so anyways, getting into this, like any detail or like any other day, you're going to start your detail with a wash. And so we're going to be doing a foam cannon wash on the Civic using Gentle Snow Foam by Kosh Chemie, GSF. This is hands down one of my, oh my god, dude, favorite smelling soaps there is. It's like, it's intoxicatingly good. It is so good, I can't even describe it. And so we're going to be doing a normal foam cannon wash. So we're going to be rinsing the car. We're going to be using the PF22 foam cannon from MTM, basically laying down some foam, letting that dwell, and then we're gonna be agitating that with the Cyclone wash pad from the rag company and doing just a normal wash, right? Nothing crazy. And while there's still foam on the car and soap on the car, I'm gonna be going through all of the moldings and all the intricate areas with this Detail Factory brush, kind of getting in the areas that I wouldn't normally get into with a wash pad, and anything that's really intricate or really hard to get into, I'll use a stiffer brush like this one right here. That's a boar's hair brush, also from Detail Factory. So a combination of brushes, safe paint brushes, along with the Cyclone pad should allow me to really clean the paint and get it looking pretty good. Once I rinse it from there, that's when I'm going to be using a chemical decontamination product. This might be completely new for some of you guys, but I'm going to be using WOWO's fallout remover. So what this is this is a chemical decontamination product that removes the iron contaminants within your paint. And so you guys might be thinking, Anthony, what the hell does that mean? That sounds like a bunch of mumbo jumbo. Well, it's true, right? So basically, your brakes will release iron particulates, right? And that, not just that, if you live near a railroad or other cars' brakes will release iron particulates that embed themselves into your paint. Your paint at a microscopic level is a bunch of peaks and valleys and hills and things like that. And so when this stuff, or when iron lands into your paint, this stuff is going to help break that stuff down. It's going to help break down those iron contaminants. And so the easiest way to kind of understand what this looks like is that if you've ever seen a white car that has these little orange specks on it, kind of looks like rust, but it's not really rust, that is an iron particulate that is in the paint. And so this is going to help melt that away. It's going to turn it purple, it's going to melt it off the car, and when you do that, you're going to be able to get more gloss out of the car, you're going to get a better polishing session, you're going to get the coating to adhere better. It's just something that's definitely involved next to clay barring the car. So chemical decontamination done with WOWO's fallout remover, and that's going to be with the whole washing process. So basically rinse the car, foam it up, start washing it, use the brushes, use the pad, and then rinsing it again, hitting it with the fallout remover, letting that dwell for a couple minutes, then re-rinsing or re-washing that area. And at that point, we should have some pretty squeaky clean paint to move on to the next step. So from there, once the paint is squeaky clean, we are going to move the car into the garage, and that's when we're going to take the wheels off. So yes, this is going to be a wheels off detail. We're going to jack up the car, put jack stands underneath, take the wheels off, and I'm going to be cleaning the wheels individually off the car. And for that, I'm going to be using PNS Brake Buster, which is an all-in-one wheel and tire cleaner. It's probably one of my favorite wheel cleaners on the market. It does a fantastic job. You guys have probably seen me use it in previous videos. And so with a couple brushes and towels and things like that, I should be able to get those wheels looking pretty damn good. And they are already ceramic coated, so they are really easy to clean, but that's kind of it for the wheels. Nothing super crazy since they are already coated. Now, once the wheels are clean, that's when we're going to start getting a little crazy. That's when my OCD is going to start kicking in. That's when we're going to do a fender well detailing session. So I haven't touched the fender wells on this Civic since I lowered it. I mean, in all honesty, I haven't cleaned the fender wells or detailed the suspension or the coilovers or anything like that. I just haven't had time. So that's where I want to do that in today's video or tomorrow's video or whenever the hell this video comes out, but that's the plan for that. So with the wheels off, that's when we should have access to the coilovers as well as the camber kits, the lower control arms, all of that, and do a deep clean on that. And so for that, I'm actually going to be using a combination of all-purpose cleaner, which is Optimum Power Clean is what I'm going to be using for that. I'm going to be using a couple brushes, but I'm actually going to be using this guy right here, my McCulloch 1275 steamer. I'm going to steam everything because I think I'm going to be able to break down a lot of that stuff and not make as much of a mess. Now, typically you'd use a pressure washer, all that, but I don't want to jack up the car in the driveway because I have a slight slant to it, so I'd rather just do it all inside here and clean up the fender wells without making too much of a mess. So the steam cleaner here, using distilled water and using Optimum No Rinse inside the steamer, should give me more cleaning power and should clean up pretty damn good. And so cleaning the fender wells, getting those spotless, as beautiful as possible, and once those are done, fender wells are going to be covered, mud guards are going to be taken off the car, cleaned individually, but overall this is going to be just kind of an in-depth wheel arch, wheel cleaning session, getting all of that crap out from all the years that I haven't cleaned them. So hopefully I haven't lost you guys yet, right? Hopefully you guys are still with me here. The next step is going to be something pretty simple, something you've probably heard of. That's when we're going to clay bar the car. So for that, I'm going to be using the Rag Company's Ultra Clay Bar that they just released that I'm really excited to test out here. And so we're going to be using that with Optimum No Rinse as our clay lubricant. So typically people use like a detail spray as their clay lubricant. I'm going to use a no rinse product because it won't leave any type of wax or any type of protection behind. It's just going to be a very easy to use product. And so to spray my clay spray, I'm going to be using the IK multi-sprayer here with a little bit of O&R in it, and then just going through the car and claying it. Now, for people that aren't sure why you would need to clay and what is a clay bar, so a clay bar, if I can open this, sorry, we were using it the other day, pop this thing open. Okay, sorry, it's also very cold in here, so it's getting really tacky and sticky. But a clay bar, why would you use this? So a clay bar, also known as mechanical decontamination, that's a complicated word for something that's not that complicated, is basically taking a clay bar and smoothing out the surface. So when you're looking at paint, right, paint visually, you're not going to be able to see a lot of the contaminants. So a lot of the things that are sticking onto it, you can't really see that. A clay bar is something that you're going to glide across the surface and remove anything that you really can or can't see. So if you have old tree sap stuck on the car, if you have overspray from paint or anything like that, a clay bar is going to lightly abrade the surface and remove that while leaving minimal marring behind. And so typically when you're using a clay bar, it's going to leave a little bit of, it's called marring, and marring is basically, it's kind of like you've basically brushed the paint with something that was a little bit of abrasive, right? And it leaves behind some little scratches. And so those get fixed when you polish the car, but claying is needed because it's going to smooth things out. It's going to make the paint as smooth as glass. And it's also going to, again, enhance the gloss, enhance the shine. It's all done for that final outcome of polishing and coating. So clay barring with the Ultra Clay Bar, Optimum No Rinse as my clay lubricant. And then if I feel lazy, I might bust this out, which is the Optimum Ultra Clay Towel. The Rag Company also has their Ultra Clay Towel as well. It's basically the same concept, just built into a towel, and so all you have to do is wipe a towel across the surface. But since I'm gonna go pretty OCD about it, I'm probably gonna use just old school clay bar and use that to clay the entire car. So at this point, right, if you're following up again, we are going to have a washed car. We're gonna have a chemical decontaminated car. We are going to clean the fender wells with APC and a steamer, get the coilovers, get the fender wells all looking minty fresh. And then from there, with the car being clean, we're gonna clay bar the car, get everything smoothed out, remove any type of tree sap or any type of overspray or anything like that off the paint. And at that point, the paint is ready for polish. So hopefully you guys are still with me on that. So at this point, you do have squeaky clean paint that you can jump straight into polishing if that's what you wanted to do. However, I'm gonna take the opportunity to do some touch up on the car. So I'm gonna touch up some rock chips and any other imperfections with the Dr. Color Chip system, which is hands down my favorite paint touch up repair system on the market. This is my favorite, hands down. So this is color matched to R81, the Milano Red for my Honda Civic. And I'm basically gonna go through with a very fine brush and touch up any type of rock chips I have or any other type of imperfections along the entire car. And the reason why I'm doing that is because once I coat the car, this paint will not stick, right? So if I coat over a chipped area and I try to touch it up with this, it's not gonna stick, it's gonna fall right out. So with having squeaky clean paint, I'm gonna basically take a little bit of isopropyl alcohol, this stuff right here, spray my area that I'm gonna do my touch up on, and then basically blob this in, wipe it in, remove any excess stuff, and I should have a perfectly touched up surface. And so hands down my favorite Dr. Color Chip. If you haven't used it, try it out, man. This stuff is a lifesaver. So hopefully you have your ghillie suit on because we're getting into the weeds. Nope. Yeah, that was a bad joke. That was pretty bad. But hey, wouldn't be an All Day Anthony video without a few bad jokes and sexual innuendos, but that's besides the point. So to start this detail, we're actually going to begin with wet sanding. This is 3000 grit Trizact paper. As I told you guys before, my fender and my door have a little bit of texture that I want to fix. So using this and a little bit of O&R mixed with water, I should be able to wet sand that texture off and really be able to make that match the rest of the car. So that's what I'm going to start with first. I may film this, I may not film this. It just kind of depends on what kind of time I have. But from there, that's where I'm going to jump into polishing. So this guy right here is the Rupes LHR 15 Mark II. This is going to be the bread and butter of the entire detail. This is a random orbital polisher with a 15mm throw and a 5-inch backing plate. So this guy right here is going to rotate and oscillate. What this is going to do, it's going to remove scratches, remove swirls. It's going to enhance the gloss, enhance the clarity of the clear coat. This is basically going to do everything, man. So this is just a fantastic tool. I think Rupes makes fantastic products. I like to think of them as like the Ferrari of polishing companies, if that makes sense. And so this guy right here is going to be doing most of the detailing. I'm going to talk about the pads I'm going to use with this here in just a minute, but this is pretty much going to be the bread and butter. Now this thing right here, not pretty, man. Not pretty at all, but she does the job, right? Let's just say this thing does things that the other girls won't. There it was. That was it, man. That was the joke. So this is my Porter Cable 7424 XP. This thing has been a workhorse throughout years and years and years. This right here has a 3-inch backing plate with an 8mm throw. So it's gonna have an 8mm orbit rather than a 15 like the Rupes has. This was the first polisher I ever bought, and it hasn't let me down. Seriously, throughout years and years and years, this has done the job. And so if you're just getting into polishing and just getting into this kind of stuff, this is a fantastic starting point, man. Either this or a Harbor Freight polisher will do the job. They do come with a 6-inch larger backing plate, but you can absolutely polish an entire car with just this thing with a larger backing plate and a larger pad. And so I want to say that these are roughly $100. The Rupes is roughly $350 to $400 depending on which one you get. But this right here does the job, man. I don't see any reason to replace it or upgrade because it just works for me. And so I use this on headlight restoration. You guys have probably seen this in my headlight video, and I've used this on a ton of other videos as well. And so this is just another bread and butter and part of my polishing stuff. So this little guy right here, it's not about the size of the tool, it's about how you use it. You should remember that. Yep, there was another one. So this right here is the Rupes Hybrid Nano, essentially a toothbrush polisher that's battery powered. This is going to be for the intricate areas, such as on the pillars here. I'll use that on here. I'll use this on the spoiler. I'll use this on the underside of the mirrors, things like that where I can't get the 3-inch Porter cable into, because the Porter cable should be able to knock out the side skirts without any issues, the bumpers without any issues, but this guy right here just basically gets into the really tight areas. And so you take that as you will, right? But this thing just works. So with the combination of all 3 polishers here, I should be able to polish every single area of the entire car. Now, while I'm polishing, I'm gonna be using something called reference lighting, right? That's just a fancy term for lighting. So this right here is a Scan Grip iMatch 2. This is going to be a headlamp. So I basically put this on my head, and this is going to be able to find swirls. So if I bring this over to you guys here, I can hold this up and find swirls by wearing this on my head. Now that might conflict with my GoPro a little bit, so I'll see how that works, but this is just a really useful tool whether you're filming or not filming. And this right here is going to be kind of my hand match tool. So I'll pick this up, hold it over an area to make sure that I'm removing swirls, removing scratches, removing water spots and things like that. And so both of these lights are really handy. I recommend both to anybody that's really getting into detailing, because having both of them, you should be able to knock out all swirls from all different angles and be able to really see what kind of job you're doing. So things are going to get boring here for just a minute while I talk about polishing pads and compounds, but trust me, this is good, useful information and will make all the difference in the world along with the machine. So try to pay attention if you can. So for my compounds I'm using for this, I'm using the Last Cut compound, hands down my favorite compound on the market, because it doesn't stain trim, has a very long working time, and has plenty of cut. So with the combination of a pad and this compound, I should be able to cut a lot of that scratch out, a lot of that swirl out, or whatever the heck I'm trying to go for. This stuff just works. I've been using it for a couple of years and I haven't found anything better. Now for my polish, I'm going to be using Optimum Hyper Polish. That's in this little weird bottle just because my sprayer broke, but this is going to be the polish. So after I hit the compound, right, I might have a little bit of micro scratches. Think of it kind of like sanding. When I'm polishing with a wool pad and an abrasive compound, I might have what's called micro marring, right? That's left behind. And that micro marring is going to be really, really small scratches that can only be taken out by going to a finer pad and a finer compound or polish. It's very similar to painting, right? The same thing with sandpaper. Think of this in terms of sandpaper. So compounding here with the Last Cut compound and a wool pad. So this is going to be the wool pad from Rupes. Rupes, and I just dropped my 3000 grit. That's fine. So wool pad from Rupes here, and this is going to do a majority of the cutting on every surface of the car. And then once the major cutting is done, that's when it'll come back through with hyper polish and a foam pad, and that's going to be the refining step. That's going to be the glossing step. That's really going to tie everything together. So Rupes pads here, I have a couple different varieties. This is their newest version. This is their older versions, but they both work great. And so that's going to be for the big machine, the LHR 15. Now for the smaller machine, I'm going to test out another Rupes pad, which is a 3-inch pad, very similar to this foam pad. But for most of the 3-inch areas, I'm going to be using foam. I do have some microfiber pads, I do have some wool pads, but I think the level of cut that's going to be needed on the rear bumper, front bumper, and side skirts may only be foam pad worthy. And so foam is generally going to cut less than a wool or a microfiber pad, but it's going to finish out better. It's going to be more of a refining pad. So I have a couple new pads here from Lake Country that I'm going to utilize along with the 3-inch machine, and I should be able to gloss things out pretty good. And then for the small stuff, I'm going to be using the Rupes Hybrid Nano with the just yellow pad. I have a couple green foam pads, I have a couple yellow pads. I don't actually have any microfiber pads for this, but you know, oh well. So I should be able to get plenty of cut out of the foam with the last cut compound, and then I can change out to a different pad and go back through with a polish. Are you guys still with me? This is a lot of information. I'm sorry if this is confusing, but that's the plan, right? So heavy cutting compound, wool, finishing everything out with foam and polish, and that should give us as much gloss as possible. So amidst all the polishing, right, I'm going to be polishing everything and compounding everything. I'm going to be removing excess compound and polish with these Creature Edgeless here from the Rag Company. These are a dual pile 420 GSM 70/30 blend towel that are fantastic, extremely paint safe, and they just do a good job. So I'm using these for the compound and polish removal towel. And yes, towels make a difference. I understand that towels may not be cool to talk about, or a towel is a towel to some people, but that is just totally not true. And so I tell people, spend more money on your towels and you're going to have a better finish. And I guarantee you that, because the higher blend the towel is, right, this is your physical touch point. The higher blend this is, the nicer this is, the better that area is going to finish out when you're wiping. If you're using a really shitty towel, if you're using a paper shop towel, that's going to leave behind some marring, that's going to leave behind some scratching, and you don't want that. So this is going to be the go-to, right? Anything compound, polish removal, the Creature Edgeless is great, the Edgeless 365 is great, the Eagle Edgeless is great. Whatever you decide to do, they're just great towels. So I highly recommend them. This is what I'm going to be using for the compound and polishing step. Now, for my pads, right, when you're loading your pads up with compound and polish, you need to be cleaning those pads in between each panel. Some people will use compressed air. I have my air compressor over there with a blowgun attachment where you can blow out your pads. But what I'm going to be doing instead is using a pad washer. Now, this fancy thing right here, it's kind of like a plunger. Fill it with water, you press down with your machine, it's going to shoot water up into the pad, you spin it on the machine, and it's going to clean your pad. It's amazing. Seriously, one of the best inventions ever. And that way, going into every panel in the vehicle, I have a very clean pad. I'm going to get the best level of cut and the best level of finish. So that's the compounding and polishing step. Hopefully you guys are still with me. So now it's time to jump into the ceramic coating talk. So yes, I am ceramic coating my, at one time, $1,500 Honda Civic. And why am I doing that? Because I'm a huge fan of ceramic coatings. I do believe in them. I have my Evo ceramic coated. I have the Triumph. I have the Grom. I even have my freaking lawnmower ceramic coated. I swear to God, I really do. I don't want to talk about it, but I did ceramic coat that thing. So I'm a huge believer in ceramic coatings. I think that they make the vehicles glossier. I think they make them easier to clean. They have really good water beating and sheeting behavior. They're just a total treat, and they are a real thing, right? And so there's a lot of gimmicky products out there that use ceramic in the name or use graphene in the name, and a lot of the big box brands are using all these names, and a lot of that stuff is not the same stuff that you get in a professional application. So I consider the G-Technic line 100% professional, one of the best that you can get in the detailing market, and it's a very well-respected brand in the detailing industry as well. So that's why I'm using that. So for the coating, Crystal Serum Light XOV4 C4 trim coating. what are all of these things? So Crystal Serum Light is the ceramic coating itself, right? So this is going to be roughly 3 to 5 years of protection on its own. It looks a lot like this right here. It comes in kind of a little kit. It comes with gloves, it comes with an applicator, but this is it right here. So a ceramic coating is going to dry as a rock hard surface. I mean, not really like a rock, but you kind of get what I'm saying. So once this is applied and you spread it in, it creates another sacrificial layer of, think of like a sacrificial layer of clear coat, right? Not really clear coat, but a coating on the car that has some really cool behavior and it lasts a long time. So this is going to go on my applicator pad. I'm going to apply it to the vehicle, let it sit, let it sink into the paint, and then wipe off any excess. So that's Crystal Serum Light, and that's going to be my base product. That's going to be the coating that's pretty much on everything on the vehicle. And then topping that is going to be EXO. So this is going to be a hydrophobic coating topper. So this goes on top of CSL, Crystal Serum Light, and EXO is going to make the surface extremely hydrophobic and extremely slick. So this product is great on its own, but with a combination of this, it really kind of takes it to the next level and adds a few more years of protection, believe it or not. So this right here being maybe 3 to 5 years, this right here is 2 years on its own. So 3 plus 2, 5 years, 5 plus 2, 7 years. It really just depends on the environment. So if your car sits outside all the time and gets rained on, hailed on, everything, your coating may fail after 5 years, but if it's garage kept, then it could last upwards of 7, if not longer. So basically, base coating, really slick topping coating that goes on top of this. And so you wait a couple hours in between coating and it really does all the work. Now, C4 here is going to be specifically a trim coating. So all of the trim on the Civic, specifically like this shroud right here, I'm going to be using C4 on, and that's going to darken it and protect it and make it hydrophobic. I can also use it right there on between the two windows. I could use it on the bottom trim there and also protect from UV damage. And so that's kind of the beauty of ceramic coating stuff, right? So my clear coat on my Civic is 20 years old, right? There's probably not that many years left where that clear coat's gonna hold up. There's already some areas where I have some, it's called crow's feet or chicken's feet or whatever you wanna call it, to where the clear coat is kind of starting to split, at a very microscopic level. So putting this coating over the top of that is going to prevent that from getting worse and going to extend the life of that clear coat. And so I know that's a lot of information, but that's the truth. That's what it's gonna do. So the biggest difference between G-Technic being a professional brand making professional coating stuff and big box stuff is that this is the real deal. I mean, there's no questions asked. This is the real stuff, and so and they do a really good job of keeping this in the professional realm of things. And so you can buy it. It is available to the public, which is really cool. So you can jump on Amazon or you can pick it up at the Rag Company, and you can pick up this and this for probably I think a little over $100, and then this right here on its own is roughly $30 to $40. So overall, man, I think it's really affordable, and I think it works fantastic, especially if you're doing all the prep. So right here is panel wipe. This is gonna be the prep spray. So this is gonna be sprayed down after I finish polishing. This is gonna basically be like an isopropyl alcohol, like on steroids. I finish polishing, I use this, it preps the coating, and then I can lay the coating down, and then from there, I let it cure. I let it dry, right? Let it air dry and don't get it wet for a week to 2 weeks while the coating fully cures, and I'm good to go. And so it can see rain, right, after a day or so, but I tell people try not to wash your car after coating your car. At least give it a week, at the very least, before you wash it. 2 weeks is better because then the coating can really harden. So with the combination of all of this stuff, that's the detail, guys. I mean, that's everything from the prep to the polishing to the final product of the coating, and I guarantee you this is gonna look awesome. All right, guys, that was a ton of information, but those are all the products that I'm going to be using in part 2 and part 3 of this video series. I realize that it is a ton of stuff. That's a ton of information and a ton of products. To most people, that just hand wax their car or run their car through a car wash, but this is the stuff that's going to take this car's paint to the next level. And I promise you that. I guarantee you that it's going to look freaking awesome. And so hopefully this video wasn't too boring. Hopefully I was able to overlay enough footage to make it interesting, but you guys need to stick around for part 2 and part 3, because that's where I think that you're gonna get the most enjoyment and the most satisfaction out of all of this stuff. So I'm gonna do my best to try to get the best angles, try to make it to where it's really fun and exciting to watch, but filming and detailing is no easy task. It's a ton of work, and that's why I wanted to get all of the talking points out of the way in today's video. So hope you guys enjoyed it, man. I hope you guys learned something. I hope you guys at least found this, you know, something useful, right? And you won't see a whole lot more of these type of videos on the channel. This is just something that I'm very passionate about, and I wanted to share with you guys. So if you're following along with the process, right, and if you're following along for part 2 and part 3, and maybe you want to do any of this stuff yourself, I'm going to try to include as many links down in the description to that stuff I'm going to be using, so you guys can do the same thing if you want, right? I understand it's a lot of money, it's not completely necessary, but hey, if you want to do what I do, go for it, man. So as usual, I had fun making this video. I enjoyed sharing my passion with you guys and talking about this stuff really in depth. So stick around for part 2 and part 3. Please stick around. If you leave a comment and say, Anthony, all you did was talk this entire time, I told you I was going to talk this entire time, and that's what I did. So stick around for part 2 and part 3. I think it's going to get really, really good. And so as usual, guys, if you guys liked this video, make sure to give me a big thumbs up. Subscribe down below for more, and I'll catch you guys in the next one. It's ALLDAYANTHONY. Peace.